All right, so I've got to come clean. Uh, as I've really gotten into building these deep learning models with PyTorch, my code, it's, well, it's looking a little less cutting edge and a lot more like, that box of tangled Christmas lights everyone has. Anyone else? Just me.
Oh, trust me, you are not alone there. It's kind of inevitable, actually. As those projects get more complex, things can get messy fast, but
Okay.
that is exactly where this going classy idea from the Deep Learning with PyTorch book comes in clutch. It's like instead of that tangled mess, you're going to swap it out for like those super organized, labeled, color-coded holiday lights.
Yeah, that is a visual I can definitely get behind.
Yeah.
So this step-by-step class they talk about, that's kind of the organizational guru from my code, right? Like it's going to whip everything into shape.
That's the idea. Think of it like a blueprint. You know how architects use those really detailed plans? It's defining the whole structure, the behavior of how your training is going to work, and that makes everything nice and organized and bonus reusable too.
All right, blueprint it is. So walk me through this thing. What are the key elements we got to have?
So it all starts with the constructor, right? Think of this like our shopping list for the class. We need attributes in there to store all the important stuff. So that's going to be your model, obviously. Then the loss function you're using, the optimizer, to, fine tune how that model learns, even down to, are we using a CPU or did we manage to snag a GPU for this one?
So we're talking about grabbing all those pieces that were, let's be honest, probably scattered all over the place and giving them like designated spots in our code. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not just them. We've got like placeholders too. It's reserving space on the blueprint for the data loaders. Those are key for feeding in our training and validation data. No more just cramming stuff wherever it fits.
Oh, I'm already on board with this. This is good.
Hmm.
Okay. I did notice, though, the chapter got into, well, private and protected methods.
Yeah.
And that felt a little like, I don't know, insider jargon. Can we demystify that a bit?
Of course, of course. It's actually way simpler than it sounds, I promise. Imagine like you're building a car, right? Big team effort. Those private methods, they're like, what's going on inside the engine? Essential. But you, as the driver, don't need to mess with it directly.
Right, right. Keep those internals internal.
Exactly. Now, protected methods, those are more like your steering wheel, your pedals. You use them to control the car, but you don't need to know exactly how they work to actually drive.
Okay, that is a way clearer way to think about it.
Okay.
It's about like defining what's for internal use only versus the parts we actually, as users of this class, will be interacting with.
Nailed it. And you know what? That brings us to this neat little function that I bet caught your eye.
Yeah.
Set Tetra. It's a powerful little thing and lets you be all dynamic with the modifications. But the book makes a really good point. It's not usually how you'd build your classes out from the start.
Yeah, that's the one that felt almost like you cheating a little, even though it seemed so handy.
Here's a way to think about it. It helps us see how those methods, right, the actions our class can take, their attributes too, just, under the hood.
Huh. Okay. I like that. We're not even just organizing data. We're organizing what our code can do. This is like next level stuff.
And speaking of what it can do, what kind of tools are we talking about? What can this step-by-step class actually do?
Right. It's shaping up to be quite the toolbox. Fill me in.
It can really do a lot. It's more capable than you might think. We're talking handling that whole training process, like running those mini batch training loops, validating how your model's doing, even saving checkpoints as you go. So you're not going to lose all your progress.
Wait, hold up. Saving checkpoints.
Yeah.
That's literally saving my progress.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Okay, so think of it like your deep learning safety net, right? Imagine you're training this model and it's taking hours, maybe even days, and then bam, computer crashes. Or, cat walks across the keyboard, shuts the whole thing down.
Okay, yeah. That is a nightmare scenario. I've definitely been there. So these checkpoints, they're like our safeguard against that.
Exactly. They capture like a snapshot of your whole process right there. The model, how it is right then, the optimizer settings, even what epoch you were on. It's like hitting save in a video game. You just pick up right where you left off. No starting from scratch.
Okay, that is genius. And this ties directly into this whole step-by-step class, right?
You got it. This class doesn't just save them. It's got methods for saving and loading them. Makes the whole thing super smooth.
This already feels like a game changer. But what about if we need to, like, resume training? The chapter mentioned something about not being limited by the number of epochs we set at the beginning. How does that work?
Oh, right. So say you train your model for like 50 epochs, but then you realize you need more to hit that accuracy you want.
Ugh, yeah. Been there. It's the worst, especially with those big data sets.
But now with the step-by-step class, you just load that checkpoint even from that 50 epoch run and you tell it, keep going, I need more epochs, and it just picks right back up. No
Yeah.
problem.
So we're not stuck with our initial choices. That is huge. That is a huge relief. It does make me wonder, though, with all this talk about organization, does it actually, like, change how the model learns? Will it magically get better just because my code is prettier now?
That's a great question. And the short answer is no, no magic accuracy boost. But what it does do is give you this really solid foundation, and that becomes super important as your projects get bigger. Think of it this way.
Hit me with another analogy. I'm ready.
Okay, so you've got two labs, right? Both trying to make this new vaccine. One lab is a mess, disorganized. The other one, super structured. Everything labeled.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Now, they both might have amazing scientists working there, but that organized lab, they're way less likely to make mistakes. They're consistent, and they're probably going to get to those reliable results faster.
Makes sense. It's like we're setting ourselves up for success down the line. Which, speaking of, the book kept stressing reproducibility, like setting those random seeds. Why is that so crucial?
Because deep learning, it's not just coding, it's experimenting. And just like in a real lab, we got to be able to reproduce our results. Deep learning models, they use some randomness, especially at the beginning. If we don't control that, our results could be different every single time, even if the code is exactly the same.
So it's like trying to follow a recipe, but the cake turns out different every single time.
Yeah.
Even though you're doing the same thing.
Exactly. Setting those random seeds, it's like saying, okay, I need that randomness to be the same randomness each time. Now we can actually see if our changes are working or if it was just random luck.
That is such a good point. Without that control, we'd never really know if we were improving things or just got lucky.
Yeah.
I have to say I was really impressed with how easy the chapter made saving and loading those checkpoints seem.
It's a total game changer. Remember all those steps we used to do manually? This step-by-step class takes care of it all.
Can you remind me what exactly is stored in those checkpoints, though? Just for clarity's sake.
Of course. It's not just your model's architecture. It's the actual weights and biases. It's where the optimizer's at, like how it's learning. It's what epoch you're on, even the history of your losses, everything. It's like this detailed snapshot of your whole training process at that moment.
So even if I have to step away from a project for a bit, I can come back and be right where I left off.
Incredible. That's
Yeah.
really powerful. I really liked how they walked us through actually using the class too, like saving a checkpoint, loading it back up, and then picking the training right back up.
Right. It's one thing to talk about it, but seeing it in action
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. And they didn't stop there. They even showed us how to use the trained model to actually make predictions. Oh, yeah. The predict method. It felt surprisingly straightforward. It's like all that stuff we used to do manually, converting data to those PyTorch tensors, making sure it's all on the right device. It just handled it all for us.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. Yeah, it's like they handed us this perfectly tuned machine, and we just get to, enjoy the ride. This chapter did feel a bit more code-heavy than some of the others, though. Was it just me, or is this going classy thing, is it just inherently more demanding?
I think you're right. It was a bit more code intensive, but there's a good reason. We're kind of building this more, sophisticated foundation for these projects. Think of it as an investment. Yeah, you're putting in a little more effort up front, but the payoff. Way cleaner code, more reusable, and in the end, so much more manageable.
Investment in code elegance, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up our jump dive here into, the wonderful world of classy PyTorch code, what's the one thing you really want to make sure our listeners take away from all this?
This whole chapter was all about linear regression, right? Which
Yeah.
is a great starting point, don't get me wrong. But the real magic of this whole class-based thing, it's how adaptable it is. So take that step-by-step class and don't be afraid to really make it your own. Mold it, tweak it, adapt it to whatever kind of problem you're tackling. Image stuff, natural language processing, the sky is the limit.
There you have it. Go forth and organize your code.
Oh.
Until next time, happy learning, everyone.